All right, here we go. This is Brian Wright. I've got BT. I got Jason. I got Michael. This is the Coach's Corner. We are literally, 48 to 72 hours out of DBX 6 in Miami. We've all found our way home, and we found ourselves here on the internet to have a nice conversation. Guys, I really appreciate you hopping on today. I figured, we're really close to the action, and this is the best opportunity to not forget on the in between. Guys, DBX 6, Miami. Come on, somebody kick it off.
I'll kick
what
it
are we
off, but I
thinking
mean, I
here?
thought this was called Talk Dirty. We couldn't even agree on a name, right? It was Dirty
you're
Talk
right.
or Talk Dirty. What
Dirty
is?
talk, talking dirty. I think talking dirty sounds best to me.
Who were you arguing with about the
Yeah,
name?
talking dirty.
The schmo.
Okay, well, he didn't show up, so you get
he's not
votes.
here, so he loses.
No, he's dealing
All
with
right,
something
it's
for
talking dirty.
WrestleMania.
That's it. It's talking dirty. That's what we're doing. Talking dirty. So, Jason, what you got for me?
So, what I'll say to begin, right, is that Michael Garcia, the internet interim champion of the world for dirty boxing, I commented on one of his Instagram posts, King Mike, right? And I wasn't even that way. I wasn't intending for it to be a nickname. And maybe I misread it, but he was like, "Thank you, I like it." And I was just like, "No, I meant you're the King, Mike." But I will say, Big Mike was never a nickname. In the fighter meeting, he was like, "Everybody calls me Big Mike," and now we let Michael Hanson grace, the walls with Big Mike. But anyway, King Mike sounds pretty good. He is the king,
I like Big Mike. That's what I did on the call. Like I thought it was Big Mike.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
listen, he
I
could
think
be.
Big Mike was appropriate for him. Big Mike.
But when I put King Mike, I was almost giving him props, like you're the King, Mike. But then I thought about it. If he likes that as a nickname, a lot of these guys do show up with no nicknames. But no, I started with Michael Garcia because I'm so happy for him, and I'll get to the Wolf, I'll get to Montavious Ware. But in terms of Michael Garcia, we've all gotten to know him well. He's such a great man. We know the story about his brother who passed in 2024. I'm just so happy for him. And I understand that you might have the biggest smile on your face when you win a belt in combat sports, right? But BT, like the look, I had never seen him look that joyful. And I was so happy to see that,
Yeah, it's impossible not to root for the guy and his story. I mean, when we had him in the fighter meetings talking about, visiting his baby brother's grave, and he's like telling him, "I'm going to bring you back the belt." Like, if you don't, get feelings over something like that, and then he does it in spectacular fashion, you just don't have a pulse, So it was an incredible moment. Very happy for the guy. And I think the other thing is, the Garcia fan, we got to kind of hang with him a little bit in Nashville, and seeing kind of how they all interact. And, so I was just happy for him as a bunch. And that's just one of those just awesome moments because I didn't think that he ever backed away or was really bothered by the Wolves trash talk all week, but you could tell like he really did want his opportunity to show him like I'm a lot better than you and that I'm going to, execute this in that fight. And he proved it right. Thought he came in with a lot of confidence into the fighter meetings. Dangerous dude. I mean, he's shown like he's been in there. I think we kind of looked at him and was like, oh, this guy's unassuming, but he definitely speaks a lot louder with his actions in the ring than he does, necessarily with his words. But I was very, very happy for him. I'm happy he got that moment.
I was super excited to see him pull that off because for me during fight week, I'm looking at his demeanor and I'm going, is this moment getting to him? Is he quiet because it's too much? Or is this just how he is? Like, I honestly couldn't get a read if that was nerves or that was just him. And
I hate to interrupt you, but I have a feeling Brendan will agree with me. And maybe it's because Brian, I just feel like Brendan and I have gotten to know him maybe a little bit longer. And
absolutely,
there was no doubt in my mind that it was par for the course. Big Mike was being Big Mike. Nothing was phasing him. Brendan, do you agree with that?
Yeah, it was interesting too because they had me do the virtual press conference with him, and I was like, "Oh man, this is gonna be a dominated thing by the Wolf." And he was giving it back to him. He just does it in a much more, kind of laid back, Cali kind of style that he's got. But, I think the other interesting thing that we did have to learn in the week was how is Rob Perez going to handle being out of the ring that long? And he did mention all the hip stuff. It's kind of interesting talking to, hearing Frank on the broadcast discuss all that. Like, you don't quite know you're all the way back till you're in there, till the body's right. And so, I think you pointed it out on the broadcast, Jason, about just it wasn't the typical bull in a china shop wolf that we've come to know. Like, he was trying to feel some things out. And maybe that was, just getting used to his body, Brian. You probably know better than we would because,
Well,
you fought. But like that.
but
I don't know, like, if that was him just kinda getting used to it or if he was just the size discrepancy or what, but that wasn't the wolf we've come to know right out of the gate.
Well, I mean, two things I got to throw on that. One, in the fighter meeting, he came in completely different sitting down talking to us than he is on the internet. And then when you start to hear what's really going through him, and he was one of a handful of guys that were looking at injuries that they thought were potentially career ending. So he's carrying that weight of like, okay, not only am I back, I'm in this sport that I'm trying to be the poster child for. I've got this big title fight. I just went through an experience where I was like, okay, I think I'm done. So he's got this pressure. But then on top of it, I talked to him after the fight. I saw him after he was walking in the back, and I grabbed him and I said, keep your head up. Like, this is the best shape I've ever seen you in. You are actually executing way cleaner than I've ever seen you. And he said, no, he's like, I really trained to be a better fighter. And he said, I don't think I was prepared for finding a balance between being a technical boxer and being myself yet. And that was the issue. He came out and he tried to be really technical, and Mike was just Mike, where the wolf is trying to figure out, who am I? And he also said one thing that was surprising. He said he came out different and he wanted to fight cleaner because he said it's a 5-round fight, and that was weighing on his head. He didn't want to gas out coming out and being wild. So he was going to save that for later, but you can't save it for later. You can't when you got Big Mike in front of you and that long ass reach.
Yeah, and given the matchup, the wolf, I exchanged texts with him. He said, I didn't fight my fight. I'll be back, right? That was the night of the fight. He certainly didn't fight his fight. And I think I was surprised, yes, to see that out of the gate. And the bull in the china shop is the perfect analogy. And interestingly enough, I wish I had looked back at finish rates in dirty boxing, because I feel as though the bull in the china shop thing overall has dissipated a little bit in a way. Brendan and I have been part of 6 of these events now, and we're not seeing finishes at quite the same dramatic rate. And I do think we will again, but I do think dudes are pressing pause a little bit. The 5-round thing probably played a role for Wolf, but also as the week went on, I hate to say it, but it was like he was almost leaning into some of the professionalism in a way, in a good way. But I do believe that he lost a little bit of that wolf in him, if you will, and I think that regardless, 5-round, 3-round fight, if I'm the wolf, if I were in camp with him and he had been talking about 5 rounds, I would have been like, no, motherfucker, you need to, if it goes 4 or 5 rounds, you're in trouble. Oh, am I not allowed to curse here? Well,
curse all you want. We're talking dirty, remember? This is talking dirty, so we got to drop some.
5-round falls a little bit deaf on me. You got to come in there and make Michael uncomfortable, and while I don't think he made him uncomfortable on the microphone leading up, certainly didn't make him uncomfortable in there, and with the reach and height advantage, you better be aggressive in there.
So something I wanted to point out during the broadcast a little bit, I didn't really get the opportunity, was that if you look at the majority of the fights, the ones that went wrong for guys that we have some experience watching, the majority of it was guys were waiting for opportunities instead of making opportunities. And that's where guys were getting in trouble. So, you have someone hanging back and waiting to see what happens instead of pushing the action or using footwork or utilizing the ring to force the guy to come to him. And that's where guys were getting in trouble. I mean, Sung Jung Lee was a prime example of that. He was expecting the guy to fight differently. I mean, he got smothered and had to carry all that weight. And I mean, he gassed out. It was bad.
What's up, Michael?
Just
You good, Mike? You've been popping in and out.
Both my 3-year-old not wanting to go to bed and also having connection issues. But I moved to a new location in my house, and so far, so good.
I like this backdrop more, I think.
He's committed.
We're committed.
So, Brian, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I'm embarrassed to ask this, and Brendan, you could answer this too. Are 12 elbows allowed in dirty boxing?
12-6 elbows are allowed in anything, but you can't drop them to the back of the head, and that was a little bit of an issue.
So, I was trying to find in the dirty boxing rules something about 12-6 elbows a little bit earlier today. I didn't. Obviously, we know they're allowed now in the UFC, but so the back of the head is the issue. But in dirty boxing originally, I understand that, they want certain components to be like the UFC, but they were not allowed originally in dirty boxing, 12-6 elbows. And I meant to look back at the fight. which fight they were being allowed. But Brian, your point's well taken. That's why I started with you. So they are allowed, just not to the back of the head.
Yeah, you can drop a 12-6, but I mean, in a straight stand-up fight, I think that it was not so much that you can't throw a 12-6 elbow as much as the target problem that you run into with that. Because in Muay Thai in particular, you have what we call like a tomahawk elbow where you're coming over this way, which would technically be a 12-6, comes down the middle, those kind of things. But yeah, when you have a guy doubled over and you're dropping on the back of the head, that's where the problem lies. With that also comes to the issue of the only hiccup, I think, in the entire night was the referees. We did have some issues with referees. I don't think anybody did anything that changed any outcome, but I do think it changed how some of these fights ended.
Can
Can you elaborate?
Who was the one who, oh God, who caught the elbow and got up right away after the referee tackled him? Oh God.
The Bailey Craig fight?
Yes, that fight. I mean, that fight probably could have gone on.
Yeah, I think that was Chris Young who was reffing that fight.
And Zach Pauga's fight,
one, yeah, when he knocked out Joseph White out of the ring.
Yeah, like that.
I will say we had a really good view of White. He didn't look like he wanted to get up, dude.
Agreed.
But he also ate an elbow on his feet.
Yeah.
Started it, and then Zach put his weight on him, and his knee went out. And then when he went down, he's thinking about his knee, and then he ate a really nasty punch.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think the referee, honestly, because when you saw the weight and how the knee went, I don't know if you are going to allow him to jump on him on that one, because it wasn't like he hit him and he went down.
I think Sam Burgos has the perfect understanding of what to happen when a fight goes to the ground. And I think that's the main area in dirty boxing that the officials, if they have their meetings, need to focus on exactly what happens when it goes to the ground. But I agree it wasn't a perfect night, but I also thought Chris Young, I believe it was his first time, I thought he did more good than bad.
Absolutely.
I thought he had a good night. One thing I will say, and I could probably be convinced otherwise of my opinion, but I am going to start this conversation by saying I do think the stoppage, believe it or not, in the main event was early, given that it's dirty fucking boxing and that it's
a title fight.
I'm not saying, and a title fight. I'm not saying that it wouldn't have ended imminently, but I watched it back and I'm just saying, like he did get up. It wasn't as if he was out cold on his feet. It didn't look like Wolf put up too much of an argument. That doesn't matter either way, but a little early for me, dog.
I don't disagree with you on that. But again, I think any of these stops were stops that there was going to be no different outcome. If someone got robbed, then I would worry about it. Talk about a guy who fought his way back. AJ Cunningham. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That fight was awesome.
You eat that elbow, you're done.
So,
and then you get yelled at by your cousin for a minute, and then you come back and finish the fight. Get out of here.
So I talked to AJ later that night in person, right? And I asked him about that elbow. You can be sure he didn't remember that elbow. He also didn't remember slipping out of the way of the downward right hand. I was like, bro, you got out of the way of this right that was coming down. He looked at me like, but he fought like a dog coming back and through his own offense, didn't just survive. I hope he comes back. And I will say, for a guy like that who was on Contender Series, then had a couple fights in the UFC, who, guys that have gone to the UFC and come over here and then they lose, but show something, it's like, I hope he gets another chance desperately. He and Bryce Mitchell drove all the way. I hope he gets another shot.
Yeah, that guy is dogging him. I would love to see him again. And I think with the experience of being in there, he'll just be better for it. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but man, he does not mind being in the pocket. He's clearly not afraid to be hit. And, he uses his durability as almost a technique because it's like, you just know he's not going anywhere.
Brendan, Brendan had me on. We had fun today on 104.3 QAM in South Beach, South Florida. Brendan, did you talk about Gabriel Urett today? Isn't that the name that you brought up today? Or
that was the fight I told everybody, because even some people, like a lot of my listeners, they were like, hey, I'm going to check this out because I want to see. I was like, okay, cool. I said, go to the Urett Cunningham fight if you just want to get the semblance of why you'll like the sport. And I get it. That's because Gabriel Urett is, he was as smooth, doing everything and throwing the whole kitchen sink. And then you just see that absolute warrior from Cunningham coming back. It was awesome. And that's one of those perfect ones that, yeah, maybe the finish wasn't there, but that's perfect 9 minutes of how could you not love this stuff, Um,
100%.
and I think that's been a fun thing, Michael, is like seeing all the young guys who have been, just shining. Like, I think that's been very impressive is you're seeing like guys like Jeff Craig, 27, Yurt's what, 24, obviously progress, being a teenager. But man, like you're kind of getting introduced. We'd always talk about the revitalization for some veterans, but these young guys are coming in and making some noise.
Yeah, let's talk about Adam Progress. Dude is 18 years old. He cannot legally drink for not for another 3 years.
Not only
But
can he not drink, he probably needed somebody else to check him into his hotel room.
he can't rent a car for several more years. Not that he would fit in it, but
Right.
at 6'8", he's a guy coming from the kickboxing Muay Thai world who looked very scary. It was like, whoa! I thought he put the middleweight division on notice. He's going to be a handful at 185 pounds in dirty boxing.
So I called it during his fight. The thing that was most impressive for me, because he was literally right in front of me when he unleashed that just nasty combo that almost finished it at the end of the first. His eyes were laser focused on targets. He wasn't just throwing. He was seeing his target and then hitting it. Because a lot of times guys will get somebody hurt and they'll just throw and overwhelm. No, he was very calculating. And to be that age and to be under that pressure and to be that calm, that's a very, very scary human being. I mean, this kid's going to go wherever he wants to go. At
Yeah.
85, 185? Are you kidding me? You're 7 feet tall at 185. Who's stopping this?
Well, certainly in
And I-
dirty boxing, but I'd love to see if I would be curious about his grappling because if you're taking it to that next stage, there are certain opponents that would potentially have a field day depending how he handles himself on a mat. Go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, for his height, I thought he does utilize his reach. He has obviously a super long jab that he uses pretty well, and I was very impressed by his hand speed. I thought he had razor sharp punches.
And he also had an amazing headbutt. I mean,
Oh my God, that was
That's true. The
crazy.
headbutt was nasty. The headbutt was dirty
Dude, the
work.
headbutts were flying that night.
my God,
But
but
I
A
thought
little bit of
Frank
left
Mir
leg sinking
made
in.
I thought Frank Mir made an outstanding point on the broadcast talking about Progress has probably never had someone in front of him who he could actually headbutt because he was actually tall enough. I thought that was a really interesting point. Even though it was somewhat intentional, it is combat. And so sometimes
that was 100% intentional.
right, but for an 18-year-old kid who's never had a head in front of him and he's in dirty boxing, I can understand. I don't think it was malicious. Maybe it was. I know it
In a
wasn't.
sense.
Yeah, there
Yes
wasn't.
and no.
Yeah, there wasn't any headbutts that were like, oh, conventional southpaw ducking heads hitting.
Right.
Like, there was like Billy Goat stuff going on there,
Yeah.
dude. Like ramming the skull right into your noggin. That was like the Willis and Jet
Yes.
happened too. I was like, oh my God.
I rode in the van going to the airport on the way home with Jet, and he was so frustrated by that pressure, and he just like the both of them were frustrated by each other. That was a very interesting fight also. And we talked to Jaleel about the discipline, and when he stayed on the discipline, he was very effective in that fight. When he was losing his discipline, and that's when he was getting in trouble. And they were both kind of letting the emotions get to the best of them. That was a really interesting fight. I actually enjoyed that a lot. There was like a dramatic tension to it. They clearly were
too,
not
right?
happy with each other in the moment.
Yeah, like all week. I thought they had like the most intense stare down during the week. Like the Jew seemed like just natural energy. Like that that bled into the fight.
Jaleel originally weighed in at 173.6, and he didn't want to cut anymore. And Jet was in at 171, and Jet wanted to make him go cut weight. So Jaleel took off another 0.4 pounds, but I think there was some heat based on the weight cut and not necessarily competing at a weight, at a catch weight. One thing, Brian, I want to mention, and maybe you'll have some insight on this. When fighters lose fights, whether it's in UFC, in a big spot, or really anywhere, even if it's your son, Brendan, right? How their support system in those spots, right, is important, right? And when Alexander Schenk lost to Montavious Ware, believe it or not, that was the name, right? That was Schenk, right? Yeah. When he lost to Montavious Ware in Nashville, I, believe it or not, thought in that minute and a half, he actually fought pretty well. I just thought Montavious wasn't going to be stopped in that moment. And Schenk's a good fighter. I think he was the one who beat Galashan, if I'm not mistaken. So I messaged Alexander Schenk that night, and I think he really appreciated that, right? And so it's really interesting. My brothers talked to me about, building relationships with fighters at times. because you're there for them not when they win to give them their flowers, but when they don't win. And I think it's interesting because both Rob Perez and Montavious Ware. Now, Montavious Ware won, but both of them yesterday sent me messages, and the first word was sorry from both of them. Do you know what I mean? And I know that, Rob Perez, when Malky went over to him, he just said sorry afterwards. And Montavious Ware in the back was crying. Michael, I was just talking about sort of being there for fighters when they lose fights. And Ware and Perez both messaged me yesterday, and I had messaged them prior to that, but with the word sorry as the first word, especially like Montavious is not happy with his performance, and I sneaky love that for the young kid.
He won his fight.
Right. I saw him in the back. I was like 2-0, baby. I was like, move on to the next.
It's a lot easier to be sorry with a W than an L. I mean, going back to the drawing board with a W definitely feels a lot better. But yeah, like your point though, that word sorry kills me. I always tell these people, I'm like, who are you saying sorry to? You're the one that's getting in there. You're the one that's taking on this test. What are you saying sorry to me for? What are you saying sorry to the crowd for? Don't let anyone ever disparage you for whatever you go through while you're in there. Even if you go in there and you don't have a good performance, you don't live up to your own expectation, you've got to just face that happened, and no one else has to face that except you in the moment. That's why I love these guys. And when we sit there and we talk to them at the fighter meeting and you find out how many of them are fighting for their kids, for their wives, for better lives. These are people that they're not doing this because they want to go hurt another human being primarily. They're doing it because this is the job that they've figured out is what they can do right now. This is the one that can lift them above. And when they fall, forget about not performing at their best. I'm like, man, the dream is in jeopardy. And I feel that weight so heavily for them. And that's why I'm saying, I say this to everybody that loses. You're going to either be known for this fight or you're going to go back, you're going to get better, and you're going to be known for the next fight. You have to decide, how are you going to end this? Do you want it to be this or do you want it to be that? You figure that out.
So,
and that's so important.
So, Brendan, with respect to Michael Garcia, the interim heavyweight champion, oftentimes, whether it's the UFC or a big promotion, there's a guy that you think maybe the promotion would like to see win because he's a promoter's dream or he's more loquacious on the mic or whatever it is. And we know that the Wolf has competed 3 times. We know the saying, the Wolf is dirty boxing and dirty boxing is the Wolf. And while we love Michael Garcia, and I think that he can sort of support that. I think a fight with Jairzinho could be very big. But for the Wolf, he's no dummy. He knows that the promotion was behind him, if you will. So when he says sorry to Malky Kawa, I can understand why he feels like he let him down, because we all know if the Wolf had found a way to win this fight and get on the microphone, it would have been a different conversation with respect to Big Mike.
Yeah, I think the thing that's good about Wolf, and like the one thing he told me afterwards when I saw him walking back to my car was, that he just knows, like, no matter what, like he was upset about his performance and whatnot, but he also knows people care about watching him fight, and so he knows like the next one he's going to get in there, people will have eyeballs on him. Like, you never want to say, hey, does this guy need the belt or not? But that guy can probably convince a restaurant full of people to go watch him fight in the parking lot. Like, he's just got that. And so whether he has the belt, doesn't have the belt, the next Wolf fight we're all going to be excited for. And I think that's going to be great. And that will be part of his journey too, because I don't see him going away anytime soon. Like, I think that if he does, as long as the hip holds up and everything gets better for him, if he is working on all those skills, like, I think he is a guy that can get better. I think that it was a really good matchup. And I think one of the things that I liked about the entire night is, the matches being made are really, really competitive. They're not very lopsided, and you had plenty of blue corners winning and showing their ways. Usually you go to any local boxing show any of us have ever been to, it's usually weighted one side, and you can tell. And the thing with DBX has been, we've probably we've had 2 championship matches these last 2 cards, and I think that, and the favorite lost both of them, whether you want to say the decision was right, but that's shown that anybody can really come in here and make a name for themselves. And that's a pretty damn cool thing about it.
I'm totally with you. And Tristan Galashan, they could have had him face some tomato can and had 13 fights instead of 12, you know? So the fact that he's faced tough competition in both spots, I'm with you completely on that. And AJ definitely deserves props. And I have a lot of respect for Dirty Boxing and what they're trying to do and build all their own guys. I had some interesting conversations with Primo. I think you guys are privy to those, but just in terms of we're not going after Andre Arlovsky, well, Romero anymore, guys that are my age, you know, we're going after our own dudes and building them up. And I'm going to bite my tongue on that one thing I was going to say. Someone else can take over.
I been telling AJ from the start, from the first show. I mean, this is 3 shows for me now, and every show I've looked at the card and I'm like, okay, so where's the lopsided majority of stuff that most of these shows do? For us to be at this level of fight promotion and to have such equal matchups where really it's a coin flip in most of these bouts is wild. It's really wild because most people, to build a name, they'll have the red side will be heavy, the blue side will be light, there'll be a ton of knockouts, but no, they're actually getting the right experience mix. I mean, that's also, we were talking about earlier, Jason, I believe you said it, the knockout rate is a little bit, it's fluctuating a little bit. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that these guys are really evenly matched and they're dangerous. And I think the danger, the minute they engage, it's like, oh, I can't just pull the trigger with you. I got to be serious about this. And guys are having to make adjustments. You know, Montavious Ware, we've all been so high on him, but he went out there and he tried to light this guy up, and Saldana's like, no, you're not going to do it. And it was a really it was an interesting stylistic battle. It wasn't what we expected. We thought body shots, he was going to come out, he's going to be this, like, you know, he's just going to school him. But no, it didn't happen because, you know, I've been seeing an evolution in the expression of the rules. These guys are starting to understand what they can and cannot do. Guys are using pressure much better. Guys are understanding the little gloves better. They understand, like, you can't just brawl because you're either going to break your hand or you're going to get caught. Like, I'm not going to say they're being cautious, but there's actual strategy here. I mean, you guys have seen more than I have.
A bit more mutual respect for sure. And also, I mean, all credit to Luis Angel Saldana, man.
Yes,
for
man.
hanging in there with a guy with such boxing acumen as Montavious, where Luis Saldana.
Mike's
I'm gonna just continue while he's frozen, and I'll shut up if he comes back. But I agree with where he was going with that, and I'll just say Saldana, I think, should have gone more. I thought he should have fought a little bit more aggressively to not be afraid to put himself in danger to find a way to find a W. Because when he went, he did well. Go ahead.
Do you remember what Ware's corner said to him in between first and second round?
I do.
And that was the problem. Ware literally was throwing full power all the time. So Saldana, like, every time he would come forward, he would get cracked to the body really hard. And when you're throwing with that kind of firepower, we're like, why do you want to step forward? You're going, okay, this guy's really trying to crack. There's no play here. So, okay, I'm going to wait for the counter. And Ware didn't allow him to get comfortable, didn't allow him to make mistakes. If anything,
I don't mean to interrupt.
Saldana was waiting for the mistake.
More unorthodox. In a 9-minute fight, it's a fight, in my opinion. If I'm in his corner, yep, that's what's happening. What, are you just going to take the loss because he's fighting that way? I think you have to put yourself in danger in that spot, my opinion.
I agree with you, but with little gloves on and getting cracked like that, it's weird. Your brain's not letting you step into it sometimes. But the one thing I will say, my favorite technique the whole night was the read Saldana had on Ware, because Ware was boxing and he was floating like a boxer around the shoulder, and Saldana hit him with a nasty elbow and buckled him a bit because he caught that read. I love that. I love that subtle read. And they make the adjustment. I would have liked to follow up a little bit more, but that was beautiful.
That was one of my favorite subtleties of knowing the rules, though, too, because he immediately, when he got dropped, went right to catch the leg to reset it. And I was like,
yes,
all right, that's the first time I've seen. That's kind of the first time I've ever seen somebody that quickly, like, oh no, I'm caught. This is how I can get back.
Travis St. John had done something similar. It just reminded me of Travis St. John in a similar. I don't mean to cut you up, but Travis St. John maybe wasn't as right of mind at that moment as Ware. He was sort of grasping
at straws. He's the perfect guy that, like, when we talk about the losses, you know, like, I don't know if anybody's worn the losses tougher than TSJ. And so, like, when he won in Texas, that was like, and it was really the moment of the night, because that was a night that was full decisions. And that was just like, oh man, because like he's a guy that we all look back to that fight with Jancy and be like, that's the fight that kind of put the sport on the map of just like two guys just doing wild stuff that you're not going to see. Guy gets off the canvas, Superman punch, and he's like, that's his thing. He is like the Superman punch king. But for him to win a fight like that, that's the thing that's going to be fun. Even to the guys who lost, like, all right, you get a couple, but if you get that moment, you feel so great for them because you've known all the stuff that they've put behind it to get that.
What's so crazy too is we've got such a collection of stories now. Like in the beginning, you think about it, we're going into this and we know a handful of these guys, but we know so many now.
Right. It's a
We
great
went
point.
into this. I mean, there's 5 guys that I never saw before that I didn't know what to expect. That I'm like, "Oh, I want to see these guys fight again." This is now we're getting into that territory we were talking about before. Like we don't need, we don't need the aging stars to come in and use their star power to get eyeballs. We've got guys that are putting on performances that I really want to know who these guys are and I want to see the experience. We've got guys that are going into their 4th fight. I think Zach's going into his 4th fight now, right? Pooga?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah, like
Michael Garcia. Same
and
thing.
Michael.
Wolf fought 4 times. Montavious going into his 3rd. I mean, look, we had half of the fighters of the 24 had previous dirty boxing experience. Their records, I said off the top, were 15-2. So obviously a lot of that changed. But like Tristan Galashan, 0-2. Like I messaged him today. He's like, I'm still fighting. I'm still fighting. Like absolutely, he's a talented kid.
Very talented. He's a very good fighter. I wanted to see another round in that fight. I actually think if it went one more round, we may have had a different outcome.
Yeah, I thought he
think
was.
that's a good point.
No, I thought he was like super subtle with it too, because like Duran's got the whole crowd behind him, and everybody's gonna go crazy with it. But to handle all of that was showing a lot, and I just thought he was very sneaky, through all the stuff that Duran was
Yeah.
coming, because you obviously know you're in a situation where guys coming forward, anything he throws in that atmosphere is going to get a big read and reaction from the crowd, and so that's going to influence the judges, no doubt. And so
that's
you got
why,
to kind
though,
of find your pockets, and that's what it was impressive about him.
the first round of that fight was the most interesting part for me, though, because I feel like Tristan gave the first round away because he heard so much talk about this guy's power. And you saw he was like, I don't know if I want this guy to hit me. And then he got touched by him, and then he was like, oh, maybe. Okay. And then you saw the confidence and the momentum. And that's why I'm saying if they had a 4th round, because he was fully on a roll. By 3rd round, he's on a roll. He's doing his thing. But I think the fear got him a little bit too. He was tired. They were both really tired in the 3rd round. But a 4th round would have been interesting. The judges didn't see that way. Whatever, it is what it is. But like that could have been an interesting fight for the
That was
4th
an
round.
interesting thing too, right? Like, does bare knuckle power, does that necessarily, because everybody talks about, oh, you would think they all say, well, it's like a cast on. This was his first fight with gloves. Obviously, I'm going to throw with more reckless abandon, but like, I don't necessarily know, because on bare knuckle, it's so much about the places you catch it, the cuts that you put on guys, how they deal with it. Not necessarily maybe in a glove sport where, like, is it necessarily the same sweet spots that you're hitting
No,
that would
I
put
don't.
somebody away?
No, bare knuckle. These guys make one solid contact and the guy's taking a knee. Like they're not having exchanges where it's punch for punch for punch, where with even a little bit of padding on your hands, you have the ability to give a punch, take a punch, and that's where the cardio comes in. I don't know. We've seen a lot of guys come over from bare knuckle and they do struggle because guys are still standing there staring at them after they hit them with the gloves on.
I saw that fight closer than Frank Mir did, and the judges had a 30-20, I think, across the board. And there were more powerful shots, but I thought Galashan did a little bit with volume. And I will say, while I think significant strike statistics can be misleading and overrated, I wouldn't mind looking at some here and there in some of these fights.
I totally agree with you on that one. Because I don't think the damage is as clear in the majority of these fights as it may look at times. These guys are making good contact, but yeah, these gloves they do allow for a lot more punishment than people realize.
So Jeff Craig, right? He is impressive. I just wanted to go there for a minute. I think, he's got a bright future. He's a dog, man, that guy.
That's I don't even know how to describe him because you look at him and you're like, I don't know what to expect. And he comes out there and he's so creative and he's cracking. I mean, no fear. He's almost like disengaged from it. He's kind of just surfing his way through the fight almost. You see him, he's just kind of rolling with it and looking for an opening, and he's letting those elbows fly.
He's the type of guy that I'd love to keep around, like he fought twice and finished 2 fights in between his dirty boxing appearances. He's in a good camp, he's with Tyler Wombles, trains with D-Rod, who I guess just got bailed out of Mexican jail by Kevin Holland, if I'm not mistaken, which is a different story. I don't think my brother asked Kevin Holland about that on his podcast today when he was on. But no, I just think some of these guys are really Gabriel Urit and Jeff Craig and Montavious Ware starting to have some real dogs. I hope we start to get closer to some other belts being contested because I don't think we should be that far away in certain divisions.
Jeff Craig is the epitome of cool, dude. He just is. Like, it's just he is one of those guys. He just rolls in and it's like, what are we doing here? He's taking the selfie during the weigh-in. But, like, even his first debut, didn't he take that on short notice, Jason, at 1?
Yes,
I think he
yes,
did.
yes.
You look at him and then you look at Bamboji, and you're just like, oh, come on. This is like, it's like a shirt-off contest. You're like, no shot. Like, this kid's – and he's like – it's like, boom, vicious right off the bat of, like, ground and pound, and then has this – he gets cracked early, and you're like, all right, this dude's in trouble. And then it's like, nope, here's a crazy-ass uppercut and a follow-up. And then this one's just like – you're going to see the wildest elbows of your life. And you're just like, where does this kid come up with this stuff?
But I think you would agree, Brendan, that when we first met with him, like, regardless of the physique, we were like, oh, he can fight in the meeting. You feel me? Right? Like, I wasn't surprised. I don't think you were either after talking to him the first time.
No, well, this one was that one when this card came out, and I was like, that is to me like it was gonna be the most interesting fight of the night because I thought with Dustin having the kind of electric knockout that he did. Yes, I mean the first one that he had against Hodesing basically ran right into the right hand, but it still was impressive power. I mean, he sent that dude silly crawling out of the ring. That's how hard he hit him. So I was very, very intrigued by it. And dude, I mean, yes, they're probably, and that's the thing that's interesting. Like if the fight would have kept going, if they would have let Dustin continue, what could that have turned into? And so that's one of those where like, dude, even if we're doing this like in a couple of years, and I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch one day back, like if we got into some world where like they're both on rolls and we can talk back to that, like, oh yeah, you remember when Jeff caught him clean with the elbow in Miami, but now Dustin's got the chance to kind of avenge it. Like there is some what if to it, but man, Jeff Craig's he's very, very impressive, dude.
So the thing with Jeff is that I look at him and he's got this very, I'm going to say, carefree attitude about it. I'm looking for the guy that's going to make him care. I want to see somebody that makes him a little bit more nervous. Somebody that makes him have to go, oh, okay, and not how am I going to create a pathway out of this, but going to have to dig a little bit more. And that's what the curiosity. That's why I hope he comes back. I believe he has big MMA aspirations, but I hope he keeps coming back to dirty boxing. Quite honestly, with the amount of eyeballs that we're starting to get and with the action that's happening, and when you have an audience that's filled with UFC fighters that are all like, wow, this is a lot of fun, I'm enjoying this, there are guys that are going to want to come back now that are thinking twice, like, where am I going to go in my career now? The money will get better, the show's going to get bigger, the attention's going to be more. This is different. As much as it's hybrid as a sport, it's hybrid as a promotion as well. I mean, this is truly, people were telling me that Power Slap is the best party that you go to. I'm like, man, I kind of feel like DBX is moving in that way. This is like a fight party. It's like where it's spectacle outside and it's sport inside. It's the perfect marriage of like 2026 sport entertainment world. I love it. This has been fun.
I got a lot of love for the Hangar. I know Brendan Tobin does too. That's a scene more like Power Slap, but we outgrew it in a lot of ways. And the James L. Knight Center, we filled the building, and I think hopefully getting bigger buildings with more fans would be, hopefully we can continue. Go ahead.
We only went there to make Tobin nostalgic because, he graduated school.
I can't believe that those chairs are the same, dude. Like I was like,
well,
nobody reupholstered these things in 20 years.
That's my thing, right? I'm like, you're bringing this UFC. My point was, if the UFC people were, Hunter Campbell's there, Nina Jama's there, and Mick Maynard, he'd been there before to see Gable. But to me, the Hangar, right? You bring all those people to the Hangar. It's just more of a scene, what we're about in a way. I understand we want to fill these buildings, but even Nashville and Houston, with respect, James L. Knight Center, there was just certain, yeah, man, maybe it was the upholstered seats, but it just, there was some things left to be desired for me. I hope maybe you can cut that out if you need to, but
But
whatever.
I thought the lighting on the
Yeah.
ring
Sick.
and the way
Yeah.
it looked, that was the best it's ever looked for me. I mean, I felt like we were on a movie set.
Yeah, it was raw.
And then doing the video, the shot from straight above the ring, they didn't use it enough, but they were using that. If they figure out the right moments for that too, different camera angles, better lighting, they're improving as they go. We've made a step forward every show.
Yep.
Every show, from
I agree.
fighter to production to more fans. And I mean, I was looking at the YouTube numbers too. I mean, at this point, for most of the other shows, they weren't where it's at now. I mean, the show really is doing well. So, yeah, it's
So,
fun. We have momentum.
you know, Jessica Rose Clark had the opportunity to fight Paula Bittencourt for the belt, and Paula beat her. Jairzinho, we don't know exactly what's happening there, but there are 2 belts. If there were, and I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot, I think Brendan definitely has a better historic perspective memory than I do, even in terms of recall for the night that we just called fights. But if there was a guy or a division off the top of your head that you think maybe would deserve a belt to be contested at, anything pop into either of your heads?
Man.
And
I got one
it's probably
guy.
a tough one to put you on the spot with, right? You know, obviously, I guess for me, anyone who's 2-0 in dirty boxing, right? Like, obviously, Montavious Ware, if he had finished Saldana in dramatic fashion, perhaps you could have had him sort of fight for a belt, right? I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there was, because to me, nothing pops into my head, even though we may be close in certain spots, because we do still have some undefeated fighters.
I think Urit is probably the best expression of the sport in the moment. I mean, he's the one that's fighting dirty boxing uniquely. He's not purely a boxer. He's not relying just on kickboxing skills. This is a dude that's using footwork, using punches, uses elbows, catching angles, having fun out there, entertaining the crowd. I feel like in this moment, coming out of this show, he's the moment. It was Ware before him, but it's Urit right now.
And they're both what? They're both 145ers. Like, that's one of those they could cook it. I would let it cook for maybe, because it's like, and I don't know what their style is, because they're not the most boisterous guys, but they both have highlight reel stuff in them. But that's the one where I'd be like, that
Yeah.
I'd look for a featherweight one down the road. Like,
What do you guys think about Kevin Felipe?
Oh, maybe just because of his knockout prowess. Yeah, that's always, what was he, 170 or 185?
You know,
185. That's a guy that I would love to see fight for the belt right now.
He for sure has got the attitude for it too. Just like,
I
Come
will
on, Zach
say,
Milch.
I just, in terms of the guys with the ad, right? If Gabriel Urit, and I will say it was a little disappointing that there weren't opportunities for guys to get on the microphone after big wins, because a guy like Gabriel Urit, I think, has leveled up in a way where I would have liked to have heard from him, because I think in terms of building stars, I think it's important. Some of these early shows where we had all these finishes, where technically we were just kind of rolling, we did post-fight interviews after every show. And it's not because I want to see myself on camera, but I think it's important for these guys, especially the guys we're trying to build, to give them an opportunity on the microphone, period.
Well,
You know what I mean?
My son said to me going into this week, he said the biggest problem that he has is he doesn't know these guys enough. He said, I want to know what Montavious Ware eats for breakfast. Like, we need to know who they are, because right now fans are coming for the moments. We need them to come for the people. We need them to come, and we have to develop some star power around.
I hear you, but with I think with respect to that opinion, though, that's our job. So, and that's my job.
Course.
So, and tell your son that I'm failing in that regard if that's how he feels, right? Because I do feel that we have told some stories of some of these fighters, and I think we've done a decent job. Do you know what I mean? So, I actually would respectfully disagree, and not trying to take it personally, but I do think, there are a lot of, whether it's Blake Lacaze and his upbringing, or certainly Michael Garcia, but I think that contradicts your point earlier, Brian, about starting to get to know these guys. So while I think there are more opportunities there, I think we're doing our best.
I think we're doing, with the amount of time that we get to spend with these people and the amount of time we get to be on air, to be able to tell the stories that we have is rather impressive. What my son is saying from his perspective, he would like to see more in between. He would like to see a little bit more content coming out of the organization around these guys.
Oh, like fight week.
Not just on fight week, but in between, like fight camp. After the fight, like this week, it would be really nice to see what's going on with Mike Garcia if we can get a camera crew on him, or at least let's get him on. Let's get the
camera
round.
crew, right? I mean, we're flying Brian Wright and all these kids first class from Jersey. No, I'm just kidding. But I will think, Brian, I will say, if they can do every month, we've all heard the rumblings that after June, this thing is going to start rolling. I think that'll sort of take care of itself. But I'm with him in terms of trying to tell stories in between. But it's quite an undertaking starting this big promotion.
And you've heard me say this before. The most impressive aspect for me with this, I've been doing this forever. I've seen every show hit this weird point where they start to feel that it's our jumping the shark moment where we're going to break through, and then they borrow money to bring in a guy that they shouldn't be paying to come in because they think like, oh, we're going to bring a big name in now, and now we're going to grow. I don't see that mistake here. I see what's happening here is they're developing homegrown talent, and they're slowly developing these stories around the organization, and it's happening. Well, I don't see they're not trying to accelerate the process. They're letting the process run its course, and that's really important.
So can we quickly and you can kick me out of here anytime. Can we have a conversation about who might be next for Rob Perez, whether it's the Hippo, whether it's Steve Garola, whether it's BT, just jog your memory. What makes the most sense? I hate to say this, but certainly they'd like him to get a W, if I'm being honest. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it would, but then it's kind of like not in the spirit of the sport either, right? Like, are there get right sports? Are there get right fights in dirty boxing?
No, that's,
you know what I mean? Like, maybe
Zach.
I don't. Well, he fought Zach. Yeah, he beat him in one.
Though.
But I think Zach earned a shot at him again. I think Zach's on a roll.
I feel like if Jairzinho doesn't come back, doesn't Zach go into the title picture?
I agree with you 100%. I'm really big on him.
Like, is Cardozo, like, is that where, because he wants to go to light? I know. I mean, he was very lean the last time. Is that, Rob? I feel like
Victor Cardozo, I think has not won in dirty boxing. I think he'll be back, but certainly, I mean, Pauga's 2-1. So maybe, but yeah, I mean, I would not. I'll tell you right now, I don't know. I'm not sure there's a name that pops with respect to Zach Pauga. I'm not sure. I think he deserves the opportunity to fight Michael Garcia for the belt quite yet. You know what I mean?
With Hippo.
Well, he just lost.
Hippo. What is he gonna translate Instagram into Korean?
That
would be his toughest task. Is like, how do you rattle the Hippo?
Honestly, I have a guy for him. I have a guy in my gym who hasn't fought yet in dirty boxing. I got Jimmy Lawson. I got a big D1 All-American wrestler from Penn State who worked all the way up to Contender Series. Didn't go well for him. He's been trying to find a way to get himself back. The guy's got hands. He's big. He doesn't like people talking poorly to him. I think the two of them would jaw at each other really hard. So who knows? Maybe I'll have to throw that out there to AJ and see if we can make that happen.
Speaking of AJ, and we can wrap anytime you guys want, but even the first matchup of the night, bad combination, Henry and Ago Huskic. I mean, Huskic is legit. That was a good fight. Like, Huskic, I hope he's back. Like, that's my takeaway, I think, for a lot of these. Like, there are a lot of guys that made their debut that I really hope to see back. And there are guys that lost that I think are quite good. AJ Cunningham, Ago Huskic. I want to see Blake Lacaz get another shot. It could have been a no contest, but he was tough enough to keep going. That liver shot, I mean, everybody's not going to be like Adam Progress.
That liver shot was ridiculous. I mean, he punched a hole in him with that shot. There were so many fights on the undercard that I was like, this is a main card fight in my mind. Like, this card, there was not a lot of.
I mean, Kanda, he'll be back.
I'll be, we haven't mentioned, we'd be remiss because he's one of the veterans of it, Milos. I mean, Milos had the win over Wildman. Has the injury.
This injury is real.
And
I messaged him and said, "How you doing?" He goes, "I'm not doing good." And then I was like, "Okay."
Well, wait, when was that though?
Last night.
Okay, because I saw him after the fight later that night, and he said he thought it was all right, that he thought it was only sprained. But Brendan, I'll tell you why I haven't talked about Milos Janicic. because he's so destined on competing in the Ultimate Fighting Championship that I just don't see his future here. That's why. He's 20, he's 19-3 in MMA, finished all those fights. I just
Right.
don't. I do
Well, here's the
believe
thing, though. That's gonna be part of the charm of it too. Like the idea of if you can come from this sport, because Gable probably would have made the UFC either way, but if it becomes, hey, Gable fought there because that was his most viral. I mean, maybe the LFA knockout where he grabbed the dude too. I don't know, but certainly started with him having the dirty boxing knockout. Like that got everywhere. So if it goes from that to if Progress ends up making to the UFC like he wants to one day and Milos makes it, that's going to be part of it too. Is like, yes, it's going to be its own thing, but inevitably, as much as it's going to hurt us too sometimes, like people are going to want to go to the show at one
But
point. And that's,
and
I think, is part of the charm of it as well. And I think that somebody like Milos, who has a record like he does and finishes everybody that he does, but this is the most viral thing that he does, is still a cool thing. Because I don't know, like I would have thought we would have been done with him after the last one, and he comes back, dices
fair.
through. So I
Well,
don't know.
and
Like,
that's a guy who I would let fight for a belt the next time
For
he
sure.
fought. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
he's a killer, legit killer. The one thing you got to remember with combat sports, and the craziest part about it is it's always when you're trying to be a sport, you still have to have a bit of spectacle in it because this is prize fighting and it's what the fans want. They don't always want a league mentality about everything. They do want to have a little bit of craziness. Like Gable, so we were a pit stop on the way up, but it was the coolest part about Gable was this is a guy who's an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, and everybody's going, yeah, but can he strike? So he put himself in an environment where all he can do is strike. And it wasn't kickboxing. It wasn't Muay Thai. It was dirty boxing. You can't hide from it. You're going to have to fight. And I mean, he was pacing the hallways on fight day. And I remember my son and I looked at him. We were like, he's legit nervous right now. Like, this is one of the best athletes of his generation, if not the best in combat sports. And he's nervous because he's never had to do anything like this. So to be able to battle test himself there and for us to be a stripe on his record on the way up, I think that's great. I think if we can be a proving ground for that level of talent, fine. And if we can develop a league that has guys that are fully committed to this process, I'm down for both. It's just telling such a great story for everybody. And look, Gable's been to every one of them.
We were talking earlier about Gable. It's just so interesting. And when he goes to the UFC, right, he's doing all this other things to work on his striking. When he goes to the UFC, you take the dude down to the mat and hang out down there. You don't got to do any of that. So it'd be cool to see him. It's cool. It's been cool to get to know him. So it'd be cool to see him make that next step. But I think ultimately for dirty boxing, we are getting things better every time, and we need to continue to improve in a lot of different areas. But I think anything in life, it's repetitions. So if you're going to tell me, right, where I think June is going to happen, but the last 6 months, July, August, September, October, November, December, 6 months, right? If I would say the over-under, Brendan Tobin, is set at 3.5 events for the last 6 months of the year, right? I'm a betting man. You might have to cut this out. I go under 3 events in the last 6 months. That's one every other under 3.5, meaning I'll believe it when I see it. If we can get to 4 or 5 events in the last 6 months and not, you know what I mean? I think that really could gain some momentum, but I understand how much of an undertaking it is.
Yeah, for sure. You want to also you don't want to be like left in the wind with terrible cards either. Like I do think it's better to do quality 12 fights every other month than it is just, hey, you did fights every month, but they're shit.
I
Like
agree.
look, that has been a UFC problem. They have to put on 48 fights a year and they don't have the talent for it, and the bandwidth for fans isn't there. Like, I think eventually there's going to be yes, of course, everybody wants to be rolling because you want to have that regularly, especially if you want to get in media TV deals and things like that. Like, that's always a thing because you want to be able to provide inventory. But I think the thing that's awesome about this is the quality. Like, I genuinely am like, wasn't a shitty fight in the night. It was all awesome. And I think it's got to be a careful balance. Like, everybody's got big aspirations and big dreams and all that stuff. But like, look, as a person who follows every sport every day, tell you, one of the biggest things is there's overkill. There's too many NBA games that don't matter. There's too many baseball games that don't matter. We're going to get 18 NFL games. And all that really is for TV. It's just to provide more, food ads and all that type of stuff, but the stakes aren't the same.
Yes.
So I think I think it's smart to just say, nope, we're good with this card because it's a great card and put it out. And look, it'll eventually come, but I wouldn't rush it, especially in the infancy of a sport.
I
The only thi
agree. I just hope it eventually comes because
There's
I still think with a handful of events in a calendar year, the momentum that we could build, I think, and look, we're talking, I don't care if there's a dud or two. Do you know what I mean? I don't. You know what I mean? And maybe you get a viral knockout. So I think there's a balance, but your point's really well taken.
The only thing I can throw at you guys on this one from the damage perspective, so an MMA fighter has a hard fight. I mean, you're looking at 2, 3 fights a year and your body's ravaged. Boxers, because of how many rounds they fight and because of the big gloves, their brains can only take so much damage. The one thing about these rules, when you start to get in a scrap, these fights are over pretty quick. The amount of damage that these guys are taking is not that great. Unless you get stitches, it's not that much. You see a lot of guys that are willing to go show after show. So a guy can fight 3, 4 times. You can see the evolution to a title fight over a 6-month period with the right 2 guys. Guys might fight every other show and we could have a title fight right away. Yeah, the damage perspective on this, these guys, the brain trauma is not as bad because of the little gloves. It's really stitches. If you don't get stitches, you're back in the gym by the end of the next week. Your legs aren't getting damaged. You're not taking a kick. You're not wrestling. You're boxing with little gloves. It's different. So, yeah.
I know we don't want any. I know they're not trying to get these other UFC folks, right? But it's like I understand Cub Swanson's going to retire at 42 after putting on that ridiculous display, which is just incredible. But it's like, Nate Landwehr, what are you doing? It's like, I just think about some of these dudes. I get it. I know we don't want any of these cast offs, but they're just some of these dudes that I would love to just get a little piece of for a fight or two.
All right, let me ask
Chima
you,
would probably be like, shut up, but just.
what do you guys think of Nate Diaz, Mike Perry? Don't you feel like that should be a dirty boxing fight, not an MMA fight?
If we had the money.
I understand that. Say we had an unlimited budget, but in terms of like, if there are 2 veterans of the sport that there were rules meant for, I think those 2 with their personalities and these rules, that's the perfect scenario.
I agree. I mean, if Nate Diaz is trying to win this fight and not put on a show, though, that's certainly, certainly he would like to have it happen on the mat, in my opinion. But I'm excited for the fight. I think Mike Perry has a great chance. He's been more active. I think he's got a tremendous chance to cut Nate open with all that scar tissue, So what's the line? You know the betting line on that
I
fight?
don't even know.
I'll look.
I think I'm going to go to the press conference on Wednesday with Brian.
Nice. Nice.
It's in New York City.
I'm excited for Platinum. That's a big, big moment.
The
Perry's a favorite.
fish. What was
Yeah.
that? Perry's
the
the
line?
favorite.
Perry is about minus 225,
Sounds
and
about right.
Nate's anywhere from plus 175 to plus 200.
The fish that got away, it's the last thing I'll say tonight, is Brian Battle's the fish that got away for us. I feel like that is a guy that really could have done something in dirty boxing.
Well, do you think the door is closed?
He's got a PFL contract.
Right. I mean, like, look at how that fight went. Did you watch that? Brendan, did you see Brian Battle, Johnny Eblin?
Yeah, that was really bummed.
I know.
Did you really
I
think it was going to go another way?
I mean, I didn't think Eblin hadn't looked awesome recently, so I was a little hopeful. I mean, I know he's definitely more well-rounded. And I know he's a tank. I mean, my buddy trains him. So I'm like, I've always followed Johnny Eblin, but I'd kind of wondered, like, had he peaked? And, but obviously not.
Brian Battle's a guy, like, the problem with Brian Battle is when you look at that matchup, Eblin first Battle, the Battle just doesn't have the hips for that fight. Eblin was going to be able to get on the hips anytime he wanted to. It was just stylistically a terrible matchup for him. Brian Battle's going to I think he'll have a very nice PFL career. He's just going to have trouble with certain guys all the time because
Eblin's a tank,
built
dude.
that way. I think Eblin goes to the UFC and does well too if he ever wanted to. I think he's a guy that that's an impressive fighter right there.
I
I
agree.
enjoy watching him.
I agree. He's the man.
All right. I said it was the last. I'm going to ask you guys. Last one. We're going to go completely off topic. We're going to go into the other Miami event. What do you guys think of Yuri? Did he make a mistake, or did he get caught?
Believed him when he goes. First of all, he's a weirdo. Like, when
You
we had him
think?
in, dude, we had him in studio, and he's just very like everything he does has thought, but also, but he's also a crazy reckless person, in some of these fights. So I really do think that mentally he gets caught in between. And I do think that when he saw the injury, I do think it bothered him that he's like, do I just go for the kill? And I know that like everybody's like, oh, that's, I'm like, nah, I kind of believe it. It's not boldly. There's guys who have trouble with it, and there's guys who don't. Like Anthony Smith wouldn't take the belt getting kneed in the head. Aljamain Sterling did. Some people are not cool with it. Some people have that honor in them. Doesn't one way's right. You probably should take the belt because you'll apologize later and it'll be better for your career. But
What about Corey Anderson? Clacks heads with Nebkov, points
Yep.
to the ref, goes to the referee, goes, "Hey, I headbutted him. It's bad," and then the fight ends.
yeah, so I think there are people it bothers, and there are people that want to win on the level, and there are ones that, like we saw this past weekend, will headbutt you right in the head, and whatever happens, happens.
I think both things can be true. I agree with what Brendan said. I also agree that Carlos Ulberg on one leg was able to utilize that left hook. And so his props deserve to be there as well. But you mess around, you find out. Brendan and I talked about this earlier today. Chris Weidman against Anderson Silva back in the day. Anderson Silva messing around. Don't mess around with Chris Weidman. Then he becomes a middleweight champion. So for Yuri Prochazka, he would love to have a take back, obviously, of that moment. Because certainly, and my point is that while the leg kicks did not cause the ACL tear, whatever it was, the leg kicks were beautiful. He could have finished the fight with leg kicks. I think the towel was going to be thrown in. So a massive opportunity lost for Yuri. What's so fascinating to me, and I feel like I'm on an island here a little bit, but had Yuri not won a title in the past, I think this would have been, imagine if he doesn't have a belt at home, how major this is that he doesn't become UFC champion in this moment. So that makes me agree too with what you're saying, Brendan. Like, I genuinely believe that Yuri did a little bit take his feet off the gas because his reality as the human being he is, that was how he lived in that moment. And it just is what it is, but it doesn't take anything away from Ulberg. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I agree with what you're saying 100%. I'm disagreeing with you, man. Yeah, I think in the moment, I think he saw him and he was like, it's so crazy when you're in there, the things that you do under that pressure that may be off script a little bit because there's just so much. You're in this arena, you've got all these people, it's the belt, it's the opponent. You want it to be a big moment. You don't want to get it off an injury, maybe. Maybe you feel bad for the guy because you're a decent human being, or you're just a weird human being in the moment. We don't know. But his brain probably went, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, I guess we'll just bang out a little bit, maybe. I don't know. He's wounded.
Find Ray Longo's take on this from the Anik and Florian podcast. It's hilarious.
It was hilarious.
All over Yuri.
Hilarious.
All over him. He's like, I don't care if you're drinking your own piss up in the mountain. You blew it. You got to find it. But I love Yuri so much. So I actually feel for him a little bit because I think he's a special soul on planet Earth. And I think some of that is really what did get into this thing. But I don't want to take anything away from Carlos Ulberg.
The only thing that would have positively happened, because honestly, if Yuri would have won, we all would have been like, you beat a guy with one leg.
Exactly.
So the only cool competitive thing that would have happened is the fact that Ulberg knocked him out on one leg. Well, if Yuri would have won, we've been like, you beat a guy on one leg, no big deal. It's just, it's unbelievable. He's got to be, like, as you can see, he's obviously killing himself. I mean, this is also all with his first child being along the way too, just to add on top of it. You're thinking, oh, honey, I'm bringing the belt home. Oh, never mind. Like, this is probably like all flashing in your head. And now you just have to live with this regret. Cause like, when the hell is Yuri's fought for a bunch of belts? He's not going to get to fight Ulberg anytime soon, unless Ulberg is out for a while.
Right. Yeah. And Ulberg wants nothing to do with the rematch because he didn't like how Yuri handled this. So
when Joe Rogan went up to him to interview him, it reminded me of every Super Bowl when they go up and they start talking to guys that were on the losing team. And the guys were like, we're going to go back. We're going to get it together. We're going to be back next year. And I think the statistic, there's some crazy statistic. It's like 90% of those guys will never see a Super Bowl again on the losing team. And it's like, that was your shot and you may never see it again. And
Dan
you're just
Marino.
trying in that moment to live with the reality of like, oh my God, I may never come back here again. I'm not going to get that ring. I'm not going to be the champ. And yeah, that's just what's so hard with this. I'm looking at him like, man, you may never get to fight for the belt. And luckily, I mean, Tobin, like you said, like at least he has a belt on his shelf at home. That's
Right.
probably what's going to keep him from, killing himself tomorrow because this is heavy, man. This is heavy. This is really heavy because this is not fighting on a small show. This is the largest show on the planet.
Well,
this-
and he also, I understand Carlos was compromised, but Yuri was still winning the fight. He was beating up that leg, even though the knee injury was so he was winning it. He was the better man in the time that it was contested. The idea that the left hook opportunity for Olberg perhaps only would have presented himself because his knee was that messed up is so weird to say out loud. That because he's injured, it becomes a little bit of a different fight. It's just nuts. But like my brother always says, like seeing someone become a UFC champion for the first time is the greatest thing in his career. And last night we're exiting the arena and he sees Olberg getting into the elevator and John has called one contender series in his career because someone got sick and he got flown out. And Luis Saldana was on that contender series too. But Olberg was on that contender series. So John has known him since he was on the contender series. And so for him to see him become strapped up, the Yuri narrative sort of falls by the wayside,
That's a moment. Yuri is going to get up to pee at 3 a.m. for the rest of his life going, God damn it, why did I do that?
But we all probably got moments like that in different
100%. He just happened to have his on fucking Paramount. So.
But I think for a guy like Yuri, I think that is a strong soul too, and he'll be able to sort of put it in the right compartment. Bilal Muhammad, who's a very close friend of mine, I hadn't seen him. I saw him. He was cornering a fighter. I didn't see him all week, but we were able to shake hands over the octagon. He's lost 2 straight since winning the belt and didn't defend his belt. It's been a tough stretch for my boy. It's hard. You know what I mean? Both guys, Yuri Prochazka, Bilal Muhammad, you both became a UFC champion before you had a baby, both of them. Bilal had a baby right out, has a baby girl at home. So it is what it is, some blessings were there for the boys as well,
We've been going. Let's end it on this one, though, because here's the thing, and I agree with you 100%. Any of these guys, they walk out, and we talked about it. Rob Perez goes, sorry. All 3 of us. Our love for these guys and these sports and to see them go out into these fields of battle and put themselves on the line for our entertainment. There's no sorry in any of these people. Dare to do this crazy thing. We're better for watching it. They're better for doing it if they allow themselves to be. And this is what makes combat sports special. So, gentlemen, I really enjoyed talking dirty with you. Thank you for coming on. I had a blast in Miami for this show. I really look forward to June. We have no idea the details on it just yet, but it does look like it's going to happen. However many shows they want to pull off for the rest of the year, we're guaranteed that we're going to have some drama, we're going to have some knockouts, and we're going to have some fun.
I love it. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, guys. Thanks. And we'll be talking dirty, hopefully after each event.
Sounds
All right,
good.
peace. Later, guys.
Boy.